Welcome, Seawolves, to this week's Stony Brook Newsbreak. I'm Luke Bima.
And I'm Giselle Martins. Here are today's top stories. Ukraine agrees to a U.S. plan for an immediate 30-day ceasefire with Russia. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, leading the negotiation hosted by Saudi Arabia, announced in the joint press conference that the ball is now in Russia's court.
We're going to take the offer to them. We're going to tell them this is what's on the table. Ukraine is ready to stop shooting and start talking. And now it'll be up to them to say yes or no.
The deal would give Ukraine military aid and lift the pause on intelligence sharing. It includes $1 billion in equipment approved during the Biden administration and an additional $3.8 billion in aid. Hours before the meeting, Ukraine launched the biggest drone attack all the way to Moscow, the biggest attack in the war so far, injuring at least 20 people. Following the talks, President Trump's special envoy Steve Witkoff is expected to head to Russia later this week to try to get Putin to agree to the ceasefire. Donald Trump says his good relationship with Russia means he'll make this deal. This morning, the Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said that Russia needs to know more about the details of the proposal before they agree to it.
A federal judge blocks the removal of a Palestinian activist from the United States after he was arrested by the Immigration and Custom Enforcement over the weekend. Mahmoud Khalil's attorney says he was arrested at Columbia University with ICE agents claiming his student visa had been revoked, while Mr. Khalil holds a permanent resident card.
Mr. Khalil is a lawful permanent resident. He has due process rights. Only an immigration court can do that. And to the extent that the government is claiming that his presence or his activities somehow threaten U.S. foreign policy interests, which seems to be the government's position, then they're going to have an uphill battle.
President Donald Trump's administration has alleged that Khalil, who was a member of the pro-Palestinian encampment protests on Columbia's campus, was a supporter of Hamas. Authorities have not charged Khalil with the crime, and the administration has not provided any evidence showing Khalil's alleged support for the militant group.
Secretary of State has the right to revoke a green card or a visa for individuals who serve or are adversarial to the foreign policy and national security interests of the United States of America.
In response, New York City activist group People's Forum held an emergency mobilization rally on Monday. Activists, some of whom faced police brutality during the rally, protested the arrest of Khalil and demanded his return. The court will hear the habeas corpus petition filed by Khalil's legal team on Tuesday.
The Department of Education begins mass layoffs, cutting its workforce nearly in half. The decision comes after Trump's multiple threats to dismantle the DOE. The Department of Education Secretary, Linda McMahon, ensured the changes would not impact student loans, Pell Grants, and funding for special needs students. McMahon said the layoffs demonstrated the department's commitment to efficiency. Former federal employees rallied outside the department's office in Washington to protest the cuts.
President Trump is shaking up global trade again with his latest tariffs on steel and aluminum imports. The 25% tax applies to all import metals into the U.S.
Tariffs are going to be throwing off a lot of money to this country, and we've been ripped off for years by other countries.
The EU metal tariffs that were placed during Trump's first term and later suspended are to be reintroduced in full on April 2nd, including some levies that have never previously been enforced. Within hours of Trump's announcement, the European Union launched a retaliatory trade action today with tariffs on 26 billion euros worth of U.S. goods going into their countries. European Union commissioners said early today that the EU remains open negotiating with the White House.
The women's basketball team is set to take on the Hampton Pirates in the first round of the CAA Championship today at 2 p.m. in Washington, D.C. After finishing the regular season 12-17 overall and 7-11 in conference play, they entered the tournament as the 12th seed. As the women begin their playoff run, they seek their first CAA championship title.
That'll do it for this week's Newsbreak. Signing off from the studio, my name is Luke Bima.
And I'm Giselle Martins. We'll see you next week.